Hi, this is Damien from AtHope, and I'm an astrological atheist, and we're going to do the reading.
Commercially, and they need some explanation for themselves. They need to think that it's supposed to be this way. Not I've been very lucky. Warren Buffett describes that most of us in America we won the ovarian lottery. I mean, we're born into a land of plenty and there are lots of opportunities, and we can do a lot better here than we can other places. And in their case, they just need to be able to rationalize that. It's hard for them to say, well, we got lucky.
Well, there's that too, but I think my mind evolves all the time. It's kind of like teriyaki. It was good without ginger on it, and it's better with ginger on it. But the more Dawkins I read, and this last year and a half or two, I've been in 3 or 4 of his books. The one I recommend for you that you will absolutely love is called The Greatest Show on Earth.
Yeah.
The Greatest Show on Earth. You will love it. And it will clarify back to 4.5 billion years ago how you feel about the Earth. And once you understand the origin of the planet, the universe, life itself, and our connection with all life, not just human, Homo sapiens, but all life. And when you feel connected all the way back to that, it is really an emotional revolution, psychological revolution to all of us. Really, you don't even want to swat a fly after that. But when you understand how we evolved and all the evidence they have of all of evolution and of all the species of life, all that's put together. It's all documented. It's all verifiable. There aren't any missing links. There are progressive changes for hundreds of thousands of years that evolved us into who we are now. And more and more is revealed. They understand that barbecue created man as we know him now, because we could actually make food softer so that we got more proteins out of it, so that our brain grew stronger. We didn't have to spend 5 hours a day chewing on it. We could just eat and go on. When we understand all that connection and all that evolution, it's just incredibly freeing to, it's such a wonderful feeling to feel so connected with all of life. It's just overwhelming. There are no bad people. There are just brothers and sisters you haven't met yet. Circumstances you haven't fathomed yet, because they have been under other circumstances. You don't get into this condemnation thing. Of course, if you have a religion, then you have the religion, and everybody else's religion is less than your religion, which leads to conflict. When you have the best religion, then you have to fight the poor. That's a conflict. That's what most wars have been, religious wars. Okay, my God's better than your God, now I'll kill you to prove it.
How do we actually verify that?
What,
That most wars have been religious wars?
Well, the Bible's a good source for that kind of conflict. And I'm not saying that in any particular statement
I don't even know that
is.
most wars have been fought in countries that know the Bible.
No.
There are lots of religions.
There's lots of religions.
I might argue with the most a lot.
Yeah, I would dispute that, Gus, too. I would say that, well, there are wars. Someone decided to go to war. And to rally the troops, they then make it a religious war.
Well,
So they can get
that was the point I was going to make.
Yeah, and God wants us
In
to
order to get your
Wants us
troops.
to have that in control.
Well, and to be fired up. I mean,
Because why are you going to go and fight and die for something that isn't going to get you a place in heaven, and you're not even going to
The ultimate reward.
Yeah, but I would say that it's probably more about nationalism.
Exactly.
It's always been more of
I mean,
a...
we get back to the origin.
But to go with what you're saying, a lot of times religion is part of culture, is part of nationalism. So in a sense, it's hard to remove.
It's sort of like that, or we.
Like it's I fight for God and country,
Sometimes
it's...
I've had people get really angry with me when I tell them I mean.
nationalism
but-
is
but-
an extension of tribalism.
Right? Yeah, definitely.
But they're getting
Tribalism
people fired up.
Is
Not fired up.
things that occur
Although
think if
you
we
might
look at
catch
because
it.
humans
I think if we look
survive
at the social
much
origins
better in a
of
tribe
religion,
than
we
independent.
get back into man killing something, bringing it back, butchering it up,
like cats.
telling the story of the
And how
hunt,
is
because that
not
was what
providing
entertainment
medical
was,
services
you know,
to the baby of a lesbian
and evoking all these supernatural
your cause.
strengths that they have, blah, blah, blah. That someone
I
takes
mean, by the
advantage of it.
definition of what a Christian
See,
is,
if you believe at all in the supernatural, then I can tell
I'm
you
not gonna say to
what that
someone, I'm not
supernatural
gonna
thing can
provide
do
you
for you.
services
That
because
makes
you
me a
fit
priest,
in
and
boxes.
that gets you to
And
follow.
I don't care.
And there are so many more followers
Right,
than there
right.
are priests. So that becomes institutionalized. Now, the priest needs contributions, so there's money involved.
Right.
Okay, so he built a financial base for his church, which goes on, which could, so you get this power thing that starts directing armies. Okay, and Genghis Khan, I'm sure, had a religion. That
Well, so
rallied
a
his
book that
troops.
we read recently in the Seattle Atheist book group is called Big Gods. Gods, and so what in most societies, most traditional societies, God, the idea of God is very simple. It might not be a powerful thing, but when society started getting bigger, it started going from the from the clan to the city size to the state
tribal,
size. Yeah, then the idea of having the purpose of God does a couple of things. So it unifies a people. It gives them a sense of superiority, exceptionalism, and it also creates a policeman. So
That's
it's like
a lot of what that Christian nation or nation of Christians thing in the 50s was all about was getting the U.S. unified around basically business interests, because business coming out of the Depression had really they were not in favor with the American people, and in order to get back on track with commerce and getting
you
all
also
that
have to
going,
remember that Ku
just-
Klux Klan was real big in the 50s too.
they sort of imposed the religion thing back onto us and made it all about religion. And if you're an American, you're a Christian. And if you're a Christian, and Billy Graham was very, very instrumental in all of this. He turns out to be quite libertarian and capitalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting story.
well, and it creates a good narrative.
Yeah, it
for
fits.
explaining exceptions.
It
So-
fits, yes.
So I mean, the key thing economically, having earned an MBA, the main fact of successful American business in the 50s was that the United States was the only economy left standing. Right? So now you have a huge world market. You have countries that love you because you send in a few troops at the end. You have these other economies which are under reconstruction. You have cities that need to be rebuilt. So tremendous demand. So you're going to do great. So everything that happened in the 40s and the late 40s and 50s and in the 60s for American growth was that, hey, we were the only export economy left standing. So that it could do no wrong. And so of course everything is going to be very successful. People then go back to the era of the 50s and 60s and say, oh, we were just geniuses back then.
Oh, yeah, no World War.
We were the only store on the block.
Exactly.
And we have
So
to
do
go
I-
on top and sink every other economy.
Yeah.
So to address what you were asking about, I've actually read a book called Cruel Creeds and Virtuous Violence, Religious Violence Across History.
Oh, interesting.
So there's actually a book that I read, part of for my
No,
investigation.
jump in, dude.
So, because I did a lot of investigation for my book.
It's also
But so they basically say, like I was saying, is that it's not really true to say it's all. It's like more like a meshed into other issues.
Sure.
So it would be wrong to say how it's presented when you say religion causes wars. No, that's not really true. Religion's involved in wars. No, that would be true. So
I'm sure there are examples
Muslim wars.
of religion being the primary cause.
right.
Well,
When two religions meet.
yeah, you
So
have
do you think that
to.
is
Some
a
cases
meltdown
they do,
now
some
that
That's a
Christianity is?
I do.
I do too. I think we ought to just back up and let them have their meltdown. Yeah, exactly. Because they're all, it's like the circular firing squad.
Oh, that might work.
The issue is that there's
Versus
more at
style.
stake. There are
Oh, no.
things like nuclear weapons in
Yeah,
countries
Pakistan
over
and-
there
I-
Well,
that
but big
could fall
laws.
into the wrong hands.
Links this together, it links the politics together. So, look, so let's say you want to promote
Virtual
global
spoil,
trade.
that's like-
You want to promote everybody getting along and trading with each other. Well, then you're going to be magnanimous. You'll be polygamous in terms of God. Polytheistic. Say, we conquered those guys, but there are lots of gods. Everyone can get along. Big pantheon, and let everybody trade.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to get a copy.
Exactly. No, or Rome. And but on the other hand, if you want to circle the wagons and not, and repress trade, you say, you go to fundamentalism. Well, we can't trade with those people because they have the wrong belief system. Or they're sinners, so that the religion will track, and you can find it all in the Abrahamic books. Both in the Old and New Testament, you can find whatever you want to support your position. You can support a position of fundamentalism, or say, well, no, nobody get along, everybody fight with each other. Or you could go the other way. Let's let everybody get along. Let's all trade. But I think that the key thing is that the politics of what is right. If you're promoting the interests of business, well, everybody get along. On the other hand, if you're promoting insularism, for example, if you're a red state and you're a minority, a political minority, well, you want to suppress voting. You want to make everything as insular as possible.
You want to make the Bible your state book? Did you see that in the paper today?
Yeah.
Which state?
State.
I don't remember, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. Somewhere in this thing was in the south.
Guess what? It's somewhere in the
Illinois.
Sugar Belt.
Maybe one of 50.
Yeah, one of those, yeah. So, I agree with him. I think that Islam is having its Middle Ages right now.
Well, but
It's having-
they're out, right? They all they have is they have some countries that produce extra.
What do you mean they're out?
Well, they don't have very much money.
Okay.
Compared or very much trade, very much education. They're on the out. The world could get along without them. They produce one quantity that they can sell, oil, and it's potentially money. So what do? They have a fundamentalist system rather than so they circle the wagons around.
So have we come to religion organizes war?
Religion organizes
Or
what?
religion organizes aggression? Or religion is a motivator for conflict? Which
I think it's an
causes-
organizer.
Organizer of conflict?
Yeah. So it's
I think it's a pretty sophisticated level, but I have a hard time trying to prove that it didn't do that. But off the top of my head, I haven't really authenticate that. I have my library.
Wars when
Maybe
religion
it's
is
just that I
clearly
don't want to
responsible
believe
and
that
somewhat
people
clearly
actually
isn't.
fight wars.
I mean, Russia fighting China.
I don't know, but I just don't really see it being solely a religious thing.
right.
I think it's just a very personal, it's one they've taken on very personally, deeply, and maybe with some
Japan has
religion, some it's
religion
nationalism,
because of
some
how
it's
they fight.
I mean, I
some
would
it's
think
just,
I
I
would
want my
want
family to have their
very
homestead, and I'm
Right.
going to fight to protect my family.
Well,
You know what I mean? It's like,
Sometimes people
Yeah.
somebody
So you have
other
these
things.
very complex rationales trying to reconstruct.
best
or
I don't
50-50
that's not a war, that's a
whenever I do.
Now, people that are fighting wars and still using exactly those same tactics.
I think that religion can be used as a tool to get people to fight your wars for you.
I'm just talking about
No, that's good.
that person,
Oh,
that
I'm talking
specific
about
individual, I
and
believe,
why they're fought.
has a belief.
So we're
But
talking about
I agree with you that in the bigger picture, religion is an influence, but it's not the reason. At the individual level, it can absolutely be a reason.
Yeah.
Well, I think about the recent
many reasons a particular person does a particular thing.
I mean, maybe
my
it's just
religion,
because
and I want to
just
keep
don't
my
want to believe
land,
it.
and I hate that
There's a
guy.
good chance that somebody's
Really
actually
believe
going
that
to
nations
kill themselves if they think
No, I think
We're
we
with
should.
each other strictly
Yes,
over.
that they are, they're
They're
gonna
not
go
that
off to a
stupid.
greater.
I don't think so.
But they would use religion to pick a fight that they wanted to pick, and that's what I think happens. You know, so
I
for
think so.
example,
Like you were saying, to rally the troops.
right.
Like, like, yeah, we're right, they're wrong.
So people want
This is why
to.
we're doing this.
So if religion were about getting along
the
as opposed to
question of
picking a fight,
how
they
do
would
you
simply
get
say
people
that,
to fight a
Roe
war?
versus Wade, 3 months.
On occasion, you
And the
just force
quickening, at the moment of quickening, that's when a life becomes viable.
Letters and
I always
There's
just
no
thought,
really,
you know,
there's nothing to
it didn't
contradict
specify
that.
that they were women.
right, exactly. They can be told.
And since it's all a matter of belief, they say, oh, this is, we believe
Women
this
don't
now.
exist
But
as
instead, no,
humans.
no, they choose to pick a fight.
We're not.
It begins at birth, and you can't have any, you
Yeah,
know.
that's solely a
It
religious
just-
On so
conviction,
many levels.
It's-
white.
abortion.
It surprises me though, like, because I did
In this part of the
I did a project on Mormonism beliefs for one of my final projects.
to be female and most
And
of
their
the rest
death
of the world, and a
practices.
great deal of the
And
US.
so I went into their doctrine
And then
more
later on,
just going through things and
Yeah. Oh, and that's
putting
the
together
other
my
thing.
project, and you know, it just
I am the luckiest
amazed me how quickly they were willing to adapt
Pacific Northwest.
beliefs different from their own as long as it benefited
I
religion.
did a lottery.
So I mean, they didn't believe in cremation, but now they're like,
That's right.
we're living in third world countries and they've been doing it for centuries. It's okay. It's okay.
You're not gonna be able to,
It's
you're not
fine.
gonna be able to sell a
We're
Mormon.
not going to pick that fight. That's not a fight. Yeah.
And I've seen that with other religions too, because we were supposed to review
I mean, what's
my classmates, their papers and
You
stuff
know,
like
it's
that.
so easy when you have a officially recognized prophet.
Yeah.
When what now?
You have an officially recognized prophet.
Right, so we should recognize Anne as our prophet.
Now, speaking about what you're, speaking about what you were saying, last night I
Yeah.
watched a thing on Vice,
Sarah
the show,
Palin.
the news show on the cable, and they talked about, I didn't know, Iran, homosexuality is punished by death, but transvestitism, or actually transgender, changing your gender, you know, sex change, is actually considered to be legal. So you better want a sex change if you're gay, or you're gonna die. So it's actually they're the second highest in the world to get sex changes because of that reason.
Who is this now?
In Iran,
In Iran?
I was like, Iran?
Where do they get the
So they're talking about the
technology?
religion, that they said that because, like you were talking about, if it benefits the religion, they don't want to have homosexuality in Iran. Because one guy said there is no homosexuals. Well, yeah, you just turn them all into females. So then, you know, no more homosexuals. So I was saying it benefits the, you know, a weird thing they'll accept. Because they said, well, it's not in the Quran. It doesn't say you can't change gender. Once you can only be a man or woman, and you can have sex with the opposite sex. But as long as you change gender, then it's okay.
That's a real, we haven't been able to do that in about 10 years.
How we're not why that would
Nobody had
happen. So
a
taking your idea. one
True,
step
I'm just saying. I heard that. I was like,
what we
what?
tend to do, so Daniel Kahneman is now
I watched the show. They showed people getting the doctors.
They have a lot of
a brilliant
science.
psychologist.
Yeah.
They've got an easier
His
solution than
synopsis
Iran.
of how we work is
Well, yeah.
Homosexual,
Except homosexual people. That would be a real.
Hell of a lot cheaper just to chop his head off.
Yeah.
Doing
Well, I'm glad they're not doing that. At least they're giving them some out. I'm just
and then
saying
there's system
that,
two, which
you know,
is
still to force people to do that or die.
So system one is
it's
constantly
horrific.
proposing preferences, making
I could imagine, you know, getting my genitals cut off just so I could be the sex
but
I like,
generally, it's
or
system
you
one
know,
proposes
that
something
I'm
that
comfortable
system two
with, or
ratifies.
that I, you know,
So
I
that
feel like is, you know, who
so
I
we're very
am or is who I am. I mean, the fact that they have to make that kind of a choice or die is
extremely easily
horrific.
and we're subject to all
I don't think that happened.
So basically, it's a matter of preferences, of making a decision and justifying it. Well, that's exactly how religion works. You say, well, you know, I want this. I want that. And so why?
Yeah.
Well, because
It's funny because Hitler might actually have
that's the
been bisexual
justification
himself.
that's added on. And this is just how our brains work. Is that we're constantly, you know, justifying. it's
What
just that's
wouldn't have
Yeah.
regulated at all.
He started out as an artist.
It's kind of called open concept.
Not that it means an artist is gay, but I
Shoot
mean,
vigorously.
I don't think he'll make a living at it.
The trouble is that
Religion,
I'm sure we all know
Little corporal,
that
like.
that doesn't work.
it just never came up.
You know, the point I was going to make a little while ago was about the recent George Bush war on Iran. On Iraq was
Fascinating book.
he actually used the word crusaders.
right to rally his base.
Nothing could offend Muslims more than to be told that yet again the crusaders from the 13th, 12th century, were coming again. Because that was all wrong all the time. And just absolute slaughter. And for George Bush to use those terms, guaranteed animosity for the foreseeable future. I mean, you don't just tell them, don't worry about that. Saddam Hussein's gone. They didn't, that wasn't the point. We got the people who did 9/11. It's totally a lie. It had nothing to do with that.
Right.
What?
I'm sorry?
What's this about 9/11? I missed.
No, I say the one of Bush's points was he used the term crusader when he talked about the war in Iran. And the last thing the Muslims needed was to hear the word crusader.
Yeah, Crusader is the last thing they
The last thing they wanted to hear, man.
Well,
let me tell you.
and he didn't care about American fatalities.
Well, I know the
He
trouble
was just
with-
there to rally the base.
George Bush was a freaking deserter. He left the Air Force for a year and a half. Nobody said anything about it. They didn't even bring that up in the goddamn election. They were just, Dad fixed it. It's all good. Forget it. He had the nerve to sit on a fucking aircraft carrier and declare, a situation over. What a fucking
Mission
hypocrite.
accomplished.
Mission accomplished. What a fucking hypocrite. Mission accomplished. Yeah. Phase 1. How about phase 38?
Right. Here.
Yeah, you're right. The use of religion to justify your actions, your greed, your envy, your lust. God wants me to do it, or I wouldn't have lust. Tell that to that girl's father. See how much God he needs to hear for you justifying your rape.
Well,
And then you want parental control too over my dead body.
But what's disconcerting, I think, for me, is that is this. Imagine two football teams. A team that I would call one, the economists. Who are weighing marginal cost and
Still my
marginal
heart.
benefit, with equanimity. And then there's another that I would characterize as Oklahoma State, where God is telling them to crush their enemies and to kill them. Who are you going to bet?
Yeah.
That if when you've got an army that's out there and is motivated to kill you because they're insane and they think that God is, because their imaginary friend is telling them to kill you.
There's an interesting.
That's very scary.
There's an interesting historical parallel.
My whole life story. These are my one nephew.
Really,
is
do
an
you
atheist,
hear this often?
and
When do you hear this?
I've had clients like that.
Are you in bed when you hear this?
well, that's why the people, the people, the kamikazes were doing stuff because it sounds like nationalism, but you understand that they thought that
The emperor was the religion.
yeah.
that's going to kill her.
And so when you can go past, rationality to appeal to this, well, interestingly, I don't think that as a species we're selected for being that bright. I think we're selected for being about 7 out of 10.
Well,
Because
we're pretty crafty for being the weakest predator on the block. Not being a lion, not being a bear, not being a tiger.
right,
We're smaller teeth,
right,
no
no
fangs,
hair,
no hair.
Yeah, but I think he's talking about the difference between craftiness and rationalism. It's completely
Actually, we've got
nothing to
one
do with each
advantage.
other.
Sorry, what?
We've got one advantage in the world.
There's animals that can do crafty things.
Well, we're animals.
No, but I know what I'm saying.
They've said
Apes, the primates
Well,
that,
but what's a
They're not
better,
as strong as
time.
what's a more important advantage is that we work together on as a
we can
pack.
fight in groups, we organize each other.
right, but I think that we have an emotional makeup that
Here in the
very
wild.
similar to other animals, but it's more evolved to where we can experience stuff in time differential, like the future, the past, the way the animals don't relate and interrelate. It allows us to actually do a lot of, to me, issues of how we interpret things. Like when I say, when someone says right now the word atheist, I feel get a feeling, or at least animals don't have that same relation to. So because of that, I'm just saying, I agree with them, is that we emotionalize everything. So everything that we, when we think of rational, is really an emotional base of how it's going to be. And because of that, emotions are not logical. They can be all over the place. So religion taps into the emotional nature of us, and then we do irrational things because we're not really thinking. Don't you want to fight for people trying to get you? You're like, yeah. You're like, who are they? I don't care. They're against me, you know.
Sounds like my last day.
Blessed are the cheesemakers.
This is really enjoyable.
Does anyone want to check out the thing I got? I went to the American Atheists in Memphis. This was a free
I thought
paper.
This was a copy of the Capitol Hill, what do they call that?
This is
The weekly?
No, the other one.
The Stranger?
The Stranger, yeah. This is a lot like The Stranger.
That's fine. Oh, thank you.
I used to have a
Right.
friend named
Hard.
David.
Usually we're,
And they're all good conversations, but I'm like picking things here and there, and I'm like, where do I listen?
He never called it agnostic, but he
Anyhow,
called it A.
I was hoping to bring this all together
I
with that
started
coffee.
reading about it.
no,
We have so many good conversations
Right.
going, and it's
I
really
have a
hard for me to
question.
be like picking up things here and picking up there, and I'm like, wait,
well, and I think as a group, we're all the fish that don't school. And we're the ones that go off in the direction.
Son hangs
no, I'll
himself,
make
puts
my
it
own
away.
way.
Yeah.
That's one of the problems with my
But
evolutionary trail.
what I claim is probably an emotional problem or a mental illness. So I would say that it's genetics. There's nothing to blame. But it would depend on why the person, they could be in bouts of depression, some experience could have happened to me that they're not coping with.
We had a round table signing.
That would have been a good
It
idea.
would help.
Yeah, something that didn't have the background voice maybe. Because I have a hard time hearing.
Background sounds so bad here about it.
His mother told him.
Yeah, round table would be good.
His mother told him.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing that.
Yeah, I
Well,
can't
you
hear
know,
feet hardly.
what this is going to lead to,
Put down his books.
Oh, yeah.
money and politics.
No, I agree.
We start taking a collection, we start taking our collection, and we can rent a hall.
Right, which like I said, something else is
Rent a hall,
something else is going
and we
on.
have authority figures.
I mean, there's no God. I'm an atheist. There's no God for me to blame
Maybe
even
make
if I
it
wanted to blame something.
And
But I also have a degree in psychology, so I know that.
with a
I'm
round
just saying,
table,
so I know that most people.
I know
endlessly
you
chat.
Yeah.
It's there, there's
We could
good
have a
reason
catering
there,
company,
but,
so that would
you
be
know, when
ideal.
King James had it written, you know, all it was pictures, you know? There was no writing to it, it was all pictures. He had such a queasy stomach that he hired a bunch of people to write this
I
down.
donations. I can't do that anymore.
He had such a.
Well, I don't know exactly the facts of how it was written for King James. I do know the fact that the Exodus book of the Bible was written in Paleo Hebrew before they went to Babylon in exile. In Babylon in exile, they wrote Genesis in a newer form of Hebrew. So, I mean, talking about what was the Bible written at? I mean, then there was Greek and Aramaic for the New Testament. So, I mean,
I couldn't get to a Seattle meeting last Sunday.
Well, I would say that, yeah, some of that,
There's Sunday assembly.
yeah, especially, actually, looking at pictures, Paleo Hebrew actually is.
University place.
Most of it looks almost like a little bullhead.
Yeah,
But actually more picture though than hieroglyphics.
I'm out in Elk Plain.
Oh, yeah.
It's just past Spanaway.
Another thing too,
The next Fred Meyer pass.
Also,
They did a lot of work in
that like KPLU.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm actually very close to it. I'm on the other side of
I'm an atheist.
7,
I don't speak for everyone else though, but
Pacific Highway South.
talk about religion.
So when they have their
250 fish.
Yeah, see, I have a real
school district.
like fundraising
Bethel School
Yes.
District.
and support
See, I
I've been
would
an interesting kid.
organization.
due to
Those in my neighborhood turned out to be an atheist. 13 years old.
Wow.
Joy to my heart. I'm not kidding you. Because you wander around at 70 years old and thinking, it's all squared up. Yeah. It wasn't for me taking care of my dogs or whatever. And here comes this kid up the road. I chewed the fat with him one day out in front of the house. And he says, yeah, there isn't anybody who can tell me they believe in any religion if they can't hand them their head in 5 minutes.
Wow.
My kind of kid, man. All right, guys. Yeah, 13 years old.
Paleo Hebrew.
Yeah, I was overjoyed to hear it. Because he has to go to that
That's the
double
first. It's actually
and he goes on the
Proto-Canaanite.
bus and he's talking about
Proto-Phoenician.
the kid going to that school system.
Yeah, it's alphabet. It has some pictures, and like I said, the picture of God is actually a bull,
Oh, he was.
like a little bull head with horns, and then like a J next to it. That's supposed to be God. The J actually, the J is it's
I was
for sheep,
people in
whatever. It's a
grammar
staff,
school, junior high school.
like for authority. Like you grab the
My
sheep.
mother was an
So
agnostic.
the bull, the power, and the authority.
I had a very horrible thing happen when I was in 5th grade.
You're like, wow, I just learned Paleo Hebrew. Well, I only know very little about how to read it, but just from doing some study.
Symbols indicate sound.
And I didn't have a real song with it at the time.
I would say probably, but I don't want to. I only research to just try to trace the religion connections and how it related to. So I know some of the facts and stuff, but I'm not a linguist. So I do know now more than probably most people do about all that, when, where, why. But
We didn't want to have anything to do with it.
I didn't go to school for it. I just learned only enough to do my book.
There was this kid that I went to
I tried to minimize the reading. Because but it is interesting to me when you start realizing how they did things and how it transfers and changes. But that's why business is important to me to know that it's Paleo Hebrew as opposed to more modern Hebrew, is because they can date it. If they know that this book is written in this, you can't say it's written later. It has to be the 13th. Anything written in that, which Exodus is written for anything else. Period. I mean, there's no question. It's in a language that is very old.
Well, I guess they found
Or relative.
Genesis and Paleo Hebrew.
But they know it's not because they have the versions that are not. And actually, Genesis is written by more than one person, not by one scribe. It's two different camps. One is the Elapist, and one is the Yahwehist, and they try to push their views to put them both in the. That's why Genesis is so bizarre and how that they use the term of God interchangeable, kind of. It's because it's two people putting two different
Stood in front of an
beliefs.
automobile coming down a hill.
Because if you read, there's a part in there that says, I think it's Exodus though, that says that the God name known by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was El Shaddai.
Intellectual justification.
That's the original name. They knew God. And El Shaddai basically means like the breasted mountain or breasted like
Something weird happened to my
person
mom,
or
but I don't know
something.
what it was. She's dead now, so I can't ask her, but she was going to be a nun.
So that's the original name of God, which is so funny. Why wouldn't God just call himself the right name to begin with?
Because I found it, some of her writing in her Bible and
I think that right there is pretty
And she had, like,
suspect.
letters and
So
stuff.
God all of a
But then,
sudden
all my
changes
life,
his
she
name
was
now?
just like, Jesus Christ. It's all just total.
Right, well, right. L is just part of so
Something weird
El
happened to her.
Shaddai means like God of
Yeah,
the
some slapping
mountain.
the reality slapped in
God
the face
with
and blew the
breasts.
belief system out of hell.
Something
I
like
don't know what it
that.
was.
Because it's hard to say exactly
Reality
if
will always conflict with belief.
Elohim, whatever
It's the law of
it
the
means,
universe.
either mountains
Kind of like fixing your
breasts.
car
Like the
to
Grand
break down.
Tetons is saying the Grand
Belief
Tetons.
systems always conflict with reality.
Like in America, you're talking about?
You have to
Yeah.
understand
So it's
that.
kind of the same thing. It is referencing mountains, sort of, but it also can be interpreted as female
You
breasts.
may want to say, I'm
But
observing
that doesn't
this,
mean it has to be
observing that, I can
female.
prove this, I can prove that.
Because we don't
I
actually
believe
consider the
belief
mountain to be
is
female.
The lack of fact and actuality involved.
Still, yeah, L.
Anybody who says, I
What's
believe
important
this,
about
that.
L too is that L is actually the Canaanite god, and Baal is his son.
Trying to sell you a bill of goods.
And what's funny too is they're both actually referenced with the cow, but usually Baal is known more to be the cow, and that would relate. They made the cow. Remember that in the Ten Commandments?
Oh, yeah.
The calf. So the calf especially would be the son, which would have been Baal. So they made a thing to worship Baal. So then they had this story. They make it sound like that they made this calf out of like something, hey, let's just make a cow, right? I mean, the story. Let's just take a bunch of gold. Let's make a cow for the hell of it. No, it would actually have a religious connotation of why they would be making it. A bull would have been the father. That small, cow would have been to reference Baal, the son. Which is funny because they take the original God, but they don't want the son. Although there are books in the Bible that actually use Baal's name and say, "Praise be to Baal."
We had one paper that we had to do, and the topic
And of course it's translated with God or Lord.
Well, true, yes. Well, I think something they call it Baal. My son's name, Baal, the Holy One, or something. But there's very few. But yes, most of it's.
Sons of God reporting about.
Oh yeah.
I could get past that. Even with like the suicide.
I like when someone before tries to say those are angels. Yeah, they know what angels were back then.
I could handle.
They would have called it angels.
When I got into the stories about
They wouldn't have called it the sons of God.
To a situation and start freaking about something.
There was no. I'm saying is, so I've heard someone before try to say that the people that had sex with women were angels, fallen angels. No, because it would have said angels. It does not say angels.
In how the English stuff. And it turns out that both of us got that down pretty well.
Well, so I mean, what that suggests is there's something going on. That
You little guy,
Yeah.
that is not your average
where's
person.
your bandana?
The question is why?
It's not your average couple.
Right.
I don't know if we're ready.
And the question-
Arr!
So I mean, that
I can give you one of my cards.
What happens?
Oh, you are a pirate?
Brains work.
No.
So
One of my cards is
these
my
new addictions
my
that we're
meetup.
finding that there was a drug
Art,
that was used
humanism,
to treat
atheism,
Alzheimer's.
rationalism, philosophy.
About 6% of the people who take it develop a gambling.
Well,
Gambling.
I would like to think I'm getting famous.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to
Blackbeard,
say, but
I know.
they cannot control their gambling.
You know, the funny
know
thing
that.
is,
Fiction.
mine wasn't right here, but I had
fix
real black hair and my beard.
Well,
If I had all the money,
Not the orange red,
I'd be okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't need any help.
well, but it seems to be related to them taking this drug,
got 2 or
which
3
which helps the myelin sheath in their nerve, in the brain.
LSD freed up a
Like
lot of
philosophy.
things too.
Well, no, but so the point is you get these, and
Philosophy, to
6%,
clarify.
6% of the population who takes it, they develop.
Discussable. Not a disgusting amount, a discussable. It's an interesting, at 6%,
At 6%, it seems
Yeah.
like
yeah,
the
6% of the
benefit
population
outweighs
gambles
the
anyway.
risk. But yeah,
More than 6%.
that was a hard project for Damien, especially especially, you know, like people getting stabbed over their pixels on the screen, you know, pixels on a screen, a digital sword.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so things have happened.
Getting murdered because he sold a digital sword. Wow.
Well, so
Where's that?
people become
There's lots
obsessed.
of them. Just look up internet addiction.
People who become absorbed in stuff that isn't.
Murders and suicides and death due to neglect. It's a project that I had to do for class.
Well, I know there's internet addiction. I just never. I was talking about. You said something about sharing a online sword or something. What's that?
How do you, I've never played WoW, but I know that like,
I don't play games.
Yeah, this guy had a sword for his character,
Uh-huh.
and his roommate sold it.
Sold the fake
Sold
sword.
the sword in the
Online.
game online, and so he
That's
stabbed
weird.
his roommate to death.
Wow, that is freaking nuts.
Okay, but look. But when you think about how we work as a people, we have all these structures which, frankly, aren't real.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm an attorney, right? I mean, and so that everything I do professionally has to do with law. Law is completely made up.
Yeah.
Completely imaginary. You know, that it is an idea, that it is a principle that we've all adopted, and you know, and we follow. We think it's very important, and you know, people die for it. You know that you know we have that our laws are structured such that we have capital offenses. You know, intentional first-degree murder with aggravating circumstances. We're prepared to put someone to death for it. How is that different from someone who goes and stabs their roommate over a fake sword? Well, I'm not saying there isn't a difference, but how is it different? But it is the same thing. That we have a set of circumstances. We have this mental model for things, and it allows for very rarely, but it does allow for extreme circumstances. I mean, we live in a world where we go to war for things.
Yeah.
That you know, some people go to war for much stranger things. You know, and that meant that was the religious war that we were talking about. Let me give you another thing. Money. Money is completely imaginary.
Yeah.
You know, I have green pieces of paper in my pocket that are way more valuable, supposedly, than other pieces of paper. But yet I value them. So this is stuff in my head. It's the same thing as the internet addiction, really. I mean, it's a matter of degree. It's that you know, that something has for some reason that person has a system of values that you and I don't understand. And we think it's scary. But hey,
It scares the crap out of me.
but that's what we have. That's what we are as a species.
Key word here might be security. We want security. We want security. We desperately want security. We make laws to make us feel secure. We have money to make us feel secure. We have relationships to make us feel secure. My chocolate lab makes me feel secure. My time at the door at night, regardless if anybody comes, makes me feel real secure. Gun, makes me feel secure. Friends, you know, social network, all that stuff is for security. The idea, ironically, there is no security. Because anything can happen to anybody at any given time. But to accept that is a scary thought. You have to be,
Well,
you have to be ready to
Allison's
say.
example, you know, has her imaginary, you know, level 9 soothsayer sword.
Yeah.
Makes him feel secure.
Fill their head with all that.
Okay.
I see your point, but there's a big difference in putting somebody to death because they go around killing people and putting someone to death because they sold a digital sword.
No, they get put to death because 12 people said that they should be put to death.
I don't think there should
Well,
be a
there's
death
that
penalty.
too.
They had to have a reason.
You know, that's really what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
You know, so is that really all that much different? I mean, we have, you know, there's justifiable homicide.
I have to agree with you. The death penalty should be useless. You know, if we have someone amongst us who does horrible things to other people, we should put him somewhere where he cannot hurt other people for a long fucking
Yep. No, and that's
and this
look,
underlying
these are the
long.
right. And so this is where, you know, where our society has really come a long way. I mean,
We don't have a right to judge his mind as being fucked up, because you know what? We're part of the culture that helps his mind get fucked up. You get into, you know, one of the questions I used to love to ask about people say, you're an atheist. I said, well, shit. You guys ever wonder how many atheists were in jail?
Yeah, almost none.
None.
Yeah.
None. They're all wearing crosses. But who the fuck's in jail?
They may not believe
Who the hell's in jail? Catholics are in jail.
the
What
religion,
the fuck is that?
but
Religion's
the
so
rest of
goddamn good. And every time you see Channel 47 on Friday night after Rachel Maddow, and I'm doing promo.
Right. No, I like her too.
Well, I
Yeah.
think she's just really finding the minds.
Yeah.
You see all these guys are locked up. They all got, tattooed crosses. They all got, big crosses. These guys are all locked up for
The
heinous
bolts,
crime.
the Aryan Nation.
Tears down one side of his eye. I mean, they're locked up for heinous crime. And these are religious people. If you ask if they believe in God, it's I've always believed in God. So, I lost my train of thought right when I bring it up. But
Well, there's no atheist gangs.
there are no atheists.
There's no atheist hate groups registered by the.
Right.
What's that?
That's funny, I never thought of an atheist gang.
Well, no, there actually is religious gangs. There's even
yeah.
there's even the devil's disciples. There's Satanistic gangs, or they say they're Satanistic, but there's religious gangs
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is.
big
Oh, yeah.
time. But there is no atheist gang. I already looked it up for my book, and there's no hate group listed under religion, but 156, I think it's like 130 are religious connected in some way.
Yeah.
For hate groups. So it's like.
Well, they can justify their position because God's on their side. And that never changes, and that never stops. And it morphs into all kinds of other bullshit. But you're right, I don't think the death penalty should be continued whatsoever. I think we should...
Did you say that? I know I said I'm against it.
In what?
Are you against the death penalty also?
yeah.
Oh, I am
I'm a
too.
criminal defense lawyer.
Well, it doesn't mean you're not against it. I mean, you could still be.
So I've represented people in a death penalty case, who if anyone deserved to die, my client probably did, but I don't think anyone did.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
You can't
Getting
judge
a life
it.
yeah.
You cannot judge
I disagree with the death penalty too. I just feel like once you capture someone and you subdue them, then you're becoming the one that's doing a crime, no matter what they do. I think I think that violence is okay if it's for defense or other defense, but to intentionally do it to someone that you have totally subdued is just to me no different than doing a war crime. You capture people, then you just slaughter them all. I mean, it's
One of the five principles of the principle of criminal sentencing, are incapacitation. If someone is so dangerous that can you really not put them in supermax? Now, realistically, most people would rather die than live in supermax, but
I don't seem to.
What?
I mean, there are an awful lot of people that are sentenced to death that go to an awful lot of trouble to stay alive.
true.
Yeah.
Well, who's?
I mean, if they wanted to
Even
die,
Supermax, that's true.
they wouldn't fight to death. They just say so.
Well, sometimes they don't.
It's very rare.
Right.
There haven't I've heard of half a dozen.
Well,
in the last 20 years.
the reason, though, and so there's,
People don't
I
wanna
give you
die.
inside information on this. The reason for that is that the process of killing someone is so torturous that it is. I've had clients that, go ahead, just kill me. They're just being tough.
Why
But,
is-
it's like,
why
but then
is
we go
killing
through with
somebody
them.
torturous?
No, but then we go through with them.
Oh,
What
the
happens?
procedure.
So first of all, 6 months prior to the date, you put in the order for your last meeting. Why 6 months? Does it really take that? Is it that far to the supermarket?
Well, that's not part of the
torture.
procedure. Yeah.
It's torture. It's to get
Burger
you
King
lined
gonna
up.
be closed?
Yeah. Is the ice cream sandwich factory going? But no, it's because it's a form of torture. And I think that the third strike is the same thing.
Well, no, that's
Yeah, what?
Third strike.
Third strike
Yeah.
laws.
So
yeah.
life without possibility of parole.
I think quote-unquote more civilized cultures, thinking of the Swedes, do different things with their violent criminals.
Aren't we the only major country that democratic country that does that? Even has that penalty? Don't most not have it?
I think
Don't
most
they have
Yeah,
a maximum
most,
penalty of 21 years? And
Holy
right, they're very,
21 years.
very few.
it could be another
I don't know anyone
Scandinavian country.
who executes people.
I think that was Norway.
Yeah.
actually.
Like Miramar.
I think
Yeah, but
that's
that's
a little
not-
shy of how much
Exactly.
I'd
No, that's
Miramar
that's
has
the point.
Buddhists that are
Boston
terrorists, so
Bomber,
I don't know. That's
I think I'd stick with Boston Bomber and for a lot longer.
that's a whole different.
21
Whoa, what
years, you
okay?
But I grant you that would be,
China
If the
and Russia.
purpose is to
Yeah.
keep people
Nobody really call those democratic.
being out in society and offending, and if someone murders and you put them in jail for 21 years and then let them out, or is there going to be a high rate of reoffense?
recidivism.
Yeah.
Yeah, murder recidivism is very rare. Actually.
Yeah, most murders are crime. They're Tom Joad, if you'll excuse the reference to the Grapes of Wrath. You know, he got drunk, grabbed the shovel, and killed a guy.
Yeah. Well, that's murder too, by the way.
That's your
That's
what?
not that's murder too.
Yeah,
It's not murder one. I mean, so murder, death penalty isn't available. for
Well, I
murder.
mean, he got in a fight with this guy, and he
Right,
could
no, I
have
mean-
walked away, you know. He could
But
have.
that's not an intentional killing, and there are no aggravating circumstances. I mean, that's murder too. That's
I mean,
that's 60 months stuff.
I'm not sure what constitutes
That's 20 years.
an absolute crime. Like this kid, the Boston Bomber, you know, there's a lot of people going through a lot of gyrations about whether or not he should be put to death. And, you know, I can pretty much guarantee you that this kid's got a lot of problems and that he should be locked away from the rest of us for a prolonged period of time. But I do not think killing this kid solves. I mean, it might give some religious people.
What does locking him away for the rest of his life?
Don't kill anybody else if you kill
Well,
them.
I don't think he's even
It gives him a
eligible for
long,
that. He's got no
long
priors, for one thing. He's got no priors, as far as I does he?
Well, it doesn't make a difference. His
Well,
deed
no,
was
it's from a
his deed
sentencing
was
perspective, it does.
His deed was
Really?
Yeah.
Even though he did something that killed or hurt people at that?
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
terrible.
he killed. Yeah, he also killed
I
eight-year-olds.
mean,
I mean, there's some hate.
So what do you think his
Read
conviction would
something
be?
that arsonists
well, I mean,
actually have the highest
that I have no
probability of
control over
reoffending.
that. I mean, it's.
Well, I'm not saying I wasn't saying you have to know the exact thing. I was just saying what would you think? I have not really any information about sentencing of laws.
Sure. I mean,
I don't remember
the-
where, it was a really long time ago when I read something.
The
like that.
aggravating factors are that there was a
So
bombing,
you
that
have
it
that
could
guy
have
in
killed a lot of
Scandinavia, I don't
people.
know,
Right.
killed like 70 or 80 people.
That
Maybe
that there's
21
more than
years.
one victim.
'Cause that's their
That
maximum
that's an aggravating factor.
Did someone die or was there was only?
They only gave him 21 years
I think
for
there were
killing
injuries,
80 people.
but he was
Yeah, I
trying to
think
kill
that.
them.
Oh, yeah, he was trying to kill,
So, but the fact that there was no actual death is huge.
But his brother didn't his brother get shot to death? And isn't he still culpable for his brother's death since his actions led to it?
He actually ran over.
That's the
his
felony murder
I
rule.
agree, but
So a felony murder occurs when there is a death in the course of
Of a felony.
of the commission of a violent
North
felony.
Korea?
A burglary, arson, rape, robbery, kidnapping felony, not just check forgery. So
Right. It was
a
violent.
BART felony.
And that applies to any death, does it? Whether it's your partner in crime or a
Well, and that's one of the things is whether that extends to co-defendant liability as well.
So you're thinking
You
it's
rob a
mostly
bank,
just
the
safer
driver, dies of a heart attack. Did you commit felony murder? Well, I mean, prosecutors love that rule, right? I mean, because hey, we can really throw the book at anybody, and we can offer them a plea that they'll probably take because they can get convicted of that. And so they save save themselves a lot of work. So they love that. But is that really a good rule for society? No. It's way
It's
too
more insane than everyone else. And they
Yeah,
really
sometimes it
believe
seems a little ridiculous.
they're
Yeah, no,
Whatever they believe.
yeah, that law gets to be pretty
You hit
ridiculous.
that.
I mean, what I would describe my job as a public defender as after 10 years, it's just a good joke taken too far. It's just a good joke taken too far.
Too far, yeah. That's the trouble.
But you have that
Again,
nifty
you
thing
get-
where you're good at talking. You always talk at the same tone. It's always clear. It's loud, but it's soft enough to be presentable. Where usually I have a tendency to raise my voice too loud and get too unpresentable.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good at my job, but I'm just.
So what I'm saying is,
why this comes-
I'm very aware of how you talk.
Well, thank you, Damien. I
Either
appreciate it.
professional or not.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you
You're
can
professional
you
or
can
not.
tell. You can tell the difference between someone's a professional, orator is their a skill, and you can tell someone who's done a little bit to practice it. Or me, I still have a lot of work to go.
Well, I think that for me, being an attorney, the thing that's helped me the most is that I'm pretty cool under pressure. Yeah, that when there's a lot of pressure in the room that everybody wants to kill my client, I'm really calm.
So were you born that way, or did you practice to become that way?
I don't know. I don't know, but it's how I developed. It's hard to say.
We were told.
Good theater.
You can take a public speaking class.
lose your
It really
audience.
helps with that.
Yeah, well, I know that I'm gonna have to do
Well, I
speeches once
never
that book
focus
comes
on.
out.
I never focus
I'm
on
gonna have to go
audience.
give like
You know,
seminars and
generally-
speeches on my
Good
book.
actor.
I'm very aware of trying to get better
Yeah,
at
he
it.
just is.
Never asked.
Yeah.
You just did.
Because I know sometimes I get too passionate, too loud.
You understand
I
your
am.
conviction.
So we're up there.
Yeah,
We're
valid
I've always been fine with
philosophical
talking.
We have
You can ask them that short
And you don't
paragraphs,
carry
so
it.
it's like
Because you can
conversation.
demonstrate.
My stepdad was a Marine.
I don't believe
Yeah.
that's going to leave you.
But when I
do
took
not
a public
think that
speaking class,
death
I learned a lot.
cures anything. I
I
think
mean,
I'm going to death
you think about you're gonna get
cures a whole
in front
lot
of a
of
bunch of people and
doing
your
what
head's
that guy
shaking
does.
and your mind goes
Because they're locking up bullshit. Real threat.
But everybody's everybody
Religious bullshit about dying.
Yeah, I don't really get nervous. I'm not worried about the nervous. I'm worried about socially appropriate talking.
No.
well, that just takes practice.
100%.
Because
D-grade.
how to kind of have the same, I'm not very
Much
good.
more of a deterrent.
That just takes practice.
Taking some fool out and saying, yeah, that's all bad.
It's something I've been practicing all
Short-term
through
fix,
schooling.
but no long-term solution to the problem.
Right.
So what are you going to school
Any
for?
kind of statement.
Mortuary
Says we are a
science.
strong, we put somebody away for a long time. So we are a strong culture.
Are you
We will preserve our
is it like the
civilization.
embalming,
We will
or
not
is it
short-term
part of the
any of this
makeup and stuff
We will
to, like,
demonstrate
make
that
the-
if you try and
the bodies
put
look
our
good?
civilization, our culture, we will put you on
Funeral
display
directing,
for a
management,
long,
law,
you will have years to regret what you did, not seconds.
directing.
Right.
We want you to understand. We want you to demonstrate
Oh, really?
that this will happen to other
It's
people.
sort of a jack
That's
of
much
all
more of a deterrent than putting somebody out in
this, you're that.
Idaho and
You do
finding them up
this.
next to a wall.
That's a lot more than I would have thought.
I agree.
Yeah, it was a lot more than I
It's-
thought it
it's
was
also
gonna be when I
cheaper.
got started.
Well, it probably is. I mean, but, as a civilized culture, you gotta afford a certain few things. You gotta I don't mind my taxes going to stuff like that. Doesn't bother me a goddamn bit. We preserve the better parts of our civilization when we do things like that, as opposed to saying, yes, we're angry, we will kill you.
Yeah, it's around the corner.
You do not make a deep enough statement in the psyche of the enemy, quote unquote, to deter you. We really don't. You say, well, soldiers get killed. Oh, that's it. But if soldiers get captured and kept and nurtured and looked at like bugs under glass for a long period of time, and you give the guy some airtime. Let's hear what the hell he was thinking of when he pulled that shit. Why didn't you tell us why you thought killing that 8-year-old was a good idea? Let's hear about that. When you spread that around, the rest of the culture sees how neurotic and crazy those actions were. And they look at themselves. You mutate the species again.
Well, I mean,
I think that's very vital.
mutation is permanent, though. So what actually happens? I mean, in my experience, dealing with actual clients, most people. So, for example, most people after about age 15 never going to get in a fight. You're just never going to. You're going to always resolve differences short of coming to fights. A few people up to about age 25 will get into fights. After about 25, almost no. But there are a few. And when you talk to people after that period as opposed to before it, they'll say, God, I just cannot believe that I thought the way that I did. That I just can't believe that I thought that it was reasonable to take a gun and shoot into that crowd of people. Or, whatever it was whatever it was that happened. But before then, they'll just don't, what's the problem? So it's just the
Brain
development of
doesn't evolve.
Exactly.
It hasn't evolved.
And prefrontal cortex, it isn't developed, and in males,
You're not
it's
evolved.
much
Yeah, you're
well,
not
right,
an
testosterone poisoning. It's a lot of these
You're not
cases.
an adult until
Yeah.
you're 27 or so.
Well, and depending on the person, right?
Well, just generally speaking,
Yeah.
you know, you have to be that old before your brain can finish
Well,
forming.
right. But for some people, it takes longer. The long-term use of substances will slow that down.
It's going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Were these people so, you know?
Well, and so that I guess the long-term use of drugs and alcohol will definitely delay that and
I would think
make
so,
it
yeah.
or prevent it from happening at
There's
all.
a theory in Alcoholics Anonymous that when you start drinking, you stop evolving psychologically, and there's some evidence to that. But it's all subjective. It isn't anything empirical.
So
you know.
I have a question.
What's up?
I was in AA. I was in AA for 18
But
years.
not
I now have 26 years of sobriety,
Yeah, I used to drink.
and I left because to me it's just a religious cult. I don't see it as.
Yeah,
And I think a lot of the stuff that they have, is pseudo scientific or just
it is.
outright
Yeah,
faith.
yeah,
It's not even.
It still grows.
And
I agree.
their whole premise to me is actually anti-counseling too, because most of it is negative focus. Like I go to a motivational speaker that say you're good, you can do it, you have the power.
how much is
Where A is the exact opposite.
like
You're not
basic
good. You need to admit you are
Every-
no good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
You need
sure.
to admit you can do nothing.
And
That you are a
from what age
complete
to
and
what age?
utter failure. It was like the complete. No, if a counselor did that, they'd probably be in court for a lawsuit.
Well, the irony is that, and I agree with you 100%. I have 32 years
I
myself.
I mean, I drank
Yeah,
before I
I've
was
been
21,
into
but
it.
of course
I've
it was
been
all
But not
very
accessible.
accessible.
Right.
Well, I used to
So-
go when I was the first year,
that
three
would not-
a day, except on I didn't go Saturday and Sunday, but during the week, 5 times I went 3 a day for the first year.
Oh, yeah, I did too. I needed it because I had never been sober. I hadn't been sober since I was 9 or 10 fucking years old.
Didn't do yourself any.
Maybe it was 13, but yeah.
Now,
Right in that area, And I was literally,
using every day
what
since
was I,
they were
30,
12.
37 when I sobered up. And I was done on both sides when I came into that
Not a
program.
lot to work
I
You
really-
mean done on both sides? What does that mean?
I had been fried on one side and fried on the other side. Not only was my ass fried, but my brain was fried. I had tried every alter. I loved alcohol. You don't understand. That was my comfort food. Okay, that's what resolved all of my conflicts. That's what made me socially mobile. That's what made me agreeable to other people.
No,
I didn't play well with other kids.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Mission District in San Francisco. Well, my first job was shining shoes in bars on Mission Street in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade.
I never really
And my old man was an alcoholic, a flamingly violent alcoholic, and my mother never left him. We grew up in that insanity of his alcoholism. That fucks the kids up permanent.
Well, meth is pretty bad.
The only way that kid's going to feel good is if he finds an anesthetic that works, it doesn't make him sick. And for the longest time, alcohol does that. But there's a point at which that no longer works. Now, this sounds part of like AA pattern, but it is an actual factual truth.
I don't
There's a
normally
point at
tell
which
people this.
most people sober up at
Just for the
35,
sake of
36,
why I
37 years old.
disagree.
Throughout the world.
You know,
That's when men quit.
Because I'm
And because they
Yeah, no, you dodged
have
the
tried all the alternatives to sobriety, and now they're going to try not drinking, and let's see how that works. And I can't tell you how many times I've met people who said, I wasn't hurt every time I drank, but every time I was hurt, I was drinking.
I got arrested when I was 18.
I heard that recently from a guy whose foot was broken. He's 52 years old. I said, blah, blah, blah. He says, yeah, I have to admit, he had 8 years of sobriety and went back out. And I said, he said, well, I was drinking and. The time I broke my arm, I was drinking and, you make poor decisions, but you got to remember that alcohol is a comfort food. And it makes you feel insulated.
I said,
But you have to understand.
I do understand. I have
No, I
26 years
know
of
you
sobriety.
do, but I mean the individual.
That wasn't my question, though. I understand alcoholic. I am totally an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. I was a crackhead and an alcoholic mainly. Those are 2 things I did. But my question is not anything to do with that, about the addiction. I'm saying the choice of staying in AA. That, for me, once I became an atheist, just hearing that stuff, and also, like I said, I became an atheist. I got a degree in psychology. And hearing everything they say contradicts everything that I learned in psychology. I'm like, this is like, so I'm saying for me, it doesn't, even if you took all the religion out, the psychology is awful. It is completely against what good therapy should be, So it doesn't have good therapy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, it's religion, so it's like a cult to me. And then the only thing going for it would be you're with these people, but these people believe the bad thinking and the bad religion. So I mean, as a whole, that's what I'm asking you is how I mean, you've been, how long have you been an atheist?
Well, I came out in AA after I had a couple of years of sobriety as an atheist, and I announced that at meetings for years.
Well, I know, yeah. Well,
So I didn't-
when the big book was written, they had the people in New York and the people in Akron, Ohio. The people in New York, the one guy running it was an atheist, and the people in Akron, Ohio, with Dr. Bob was. I've been to Dr. Bob's house. I was an absolute AA fanatic.
Oh, you were there?
Oh yeah, I've been to his house. It's not very big. It's about. Their kitchen is like a little small, you know, and they have this big Bible, gigantic. I didn't know they made them that big. It looks like, you know, like those, like Gone with the Wind, you know. It's some kind of, I don't know. It's like a gigantic encyclopedia or something. But probably because they have bad eyes or something. But I don't know. But just humongous, biggest Bible I've ever seen. And it was, I went to the house and when they talked, they used to feed people. They try to get people off the street, and they'd give them cabbage soup and coffee and all this. They were trying to indoctrinate people at first. Then they eventually went away from that, but it was very religious. They wanted to call it the James group, out of the book of James and the Bible. So I mean, it's extremely religious. And
Even worse than I thought.
no, it's extremely worse. But my point is, even if all that wasn't true, it doesn't matter. Like I said, I see it as counterproductive to real therapy. The only benefit, like I said, is the group like this, being with, you know, feeling the camaraderie of people, you know, that understand you. But like I said, because of all the way they think, I can't even. It'd be like for me to go in religion and we're all doing, you know, feeding the homeless. Yeah, but I gotta listen to all this nonsense.
Yeah,
For me, I mean, I was asking how.
I have to agree with you. And not half-heartedly, you know. But I think what the justification might be is, well, what other alternative is there? You know, where can we go to sober up? Well, fortunately, there are treatments who actually, you know, treat you to sober up. And that's what has to happen. Because this phony philosophy of you're going to get some divine help, you know, when that fails you, you go drink. Okay, when you have a higher power that's going to save you, and all of a sudden you can't get fixed, saved, or forgiven, you know, you drink. Okay, and that is a real problem. So. And that's the end result of it. But no, I couldn't agree with you more.
Look, I was an intergroup representative for Orange County. I was a
God, Orange County.
yeah, that's where I was
It
from.
must be the right wing of AA.
Yeah, they're right wing of religion in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, for California being pretty liberal, that's definitely a stronghold for the right wing right there. Definitely, all of Orange County, or I say Southern Orange County especially.
I mean, that's pretty funny. But you sitting here now talking about that, that's pretty funny.
Well, that's where I came from. I was pretty conservative.
Oh, I'm sure you were. I was at one time.
That changed. Pretty much happened, but because of, you know, losing religion. You lose religion, and I found humanism. It's this weird thing.
I discovered sex, drugs, and rock and roll, so it was all gone when that happened.
Have you? Oh, you're like, you don't want to, right?
Well,
Look, I'm not trying to steal your music.
Well, you can take it. I just don't want
I'm
to.
not an alcoholic.
You know what she actually got
There's really something wrong with me.
What's that?
I go in and say, I'm Bradley, I'm not an alcoholic. And they go, oh, there's really something wrong with me.
Thanks for sharing, Bradley.
I know. I was in denial for X number of
whatever
years.
she takes on board. And she's had a number.
It did some good things, but mainly it's just camaraderie, I would say, is the most.
Take a picture of this.
Yeah, I have
so
about
you've got a
100
copy.
years.
Because you could probably,
On New Year's Day.
get this pretty much sent to the house. Manila envelope kind of thing.
Well, I don't think everybody's an alcoholic. I think that sometimes some people in AA, they have this opinion that almost everybody that drinks or drinks even heavily, and I don't agree with that.
I was gonna say something, you know.
And I really don't agree with abstinence only. I don't think that everybody has the problem that I had. And you probably had too, I don't know. But at 17, I had liver failure. I had alcoholic hepatitis. At 15, my heart stopped smoking crack. I mean, like you said, I was baked and quaked, real young. And I realized plus one of my grandfather had died of alcoholism, so it wasn't like, but my family told me,
What is it?
you're gonna die. Look it happened to, at 40 years old to your your grandfather, and it runs in the family. 40 years old, died.
He drank to be married tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's
And he
right.
did die. But so I mean, I think there's,
Imagine your life without it.
I had a tendency, I think, genetically for alcoholism and probably addiction. And then, I had a really hard childhood and had a lot of reasons to feel like I wanted to escape from the world.
Just a bunch of science.
And then I think I just drank enough that I
Imagine
made
the world.
addiction happen.
Well, you got to remember that you make decisions while you're under the influence that you have to live with when you're sober, and that causes pain, so you drink over that. So it's an ongoing cycle of
I want
more
to.
injury, more injury, more injury. Because you've been injured, that causes you to drink to feel better about your injury, and you create your own injury. So there's this ongoing cycle of pain, misery, and agony. And if there's any miracle in AA, it's that anybody sober good ever. But apparently around 35, 36, 37, men will stop drinking. They reach a point at which they realize, like I did, that I'm going to be 47, I'm going to be 57, and if I don't quit drinking now, I'll never see 67, and probably not even 57. They took my dad to the hospital when he was 51, the second time in 1951, when his eyes turned yellow again. And in 1951, there wasn't a lot they did for liver failure, man. And I said, make out your will, Mr. Kelly.
So that kind of told me the same thing. Basically, you're going to die. We're not going to give you a liver. You'll go on the list, and if it's convenient.
That ain't gonna happen. Yeah. I had a friend, I rented a room to a guy who passed away because, 6 months into the wait list, he had a beer and they tested him. And they found alcohol in the system and took him off the list. We're not gonna waste a good liver on somebody that can't stay.
No, on a
So,
podcast. I was listening to it.
sorry, pal. And that's the medical,
Went online and
very few livers, a lot of people need them. We're not gonna give,
I'm bummed out. I
yeah,
never
sorry,
got to
man,
see it.
you cut your own throat on that one.
Can't say
It's interesting, good talking to you, man. Interesting, I have
Sam,
my theory of the origin of alcoholism.
blog,
Poo-poo,
I got to like page
It's poo-poo.
14 or something like that.
Did I give you my card?
I think you did, but I'm not sure. Let me see.
I didn't even know about it
Maybe you
until
did, I don't know what I have on my
when I first
card.
started watching
But I would like to have this.
Yeah.
Is this your website?
And
on it?
obviously
I have
everything else
in
is real old.
Well, yeah, I have a website for a meetups here in Seattle. Then I have an online Facebook group. There's 700 something people. It's very active.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and then I have
Wait, but you know who we
Yeah.
else you can make?
That's a whole
yeah.
bunch.
We talk about science. We talk about
Big potluck.
yeah. Talk about humanism and all kinds of stuff. Do you want a card?
Well, you live in,
Card? I said I have an online. I have a group that meets here in Seattle, but also really my group is the biggest online. My Facebook group has like 750 people.
To some extent.
And you talk about science and humanism and women's rights and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I just.
Gay rights.
Damien?
Yeah.
Do you live in Seattle?
Yeah, I live in
Ken?
South Seattle.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
South Seattle.
Oh, that's cool. I'll be seeing you again.
Reading his book.
Yeah, if you go online, my group is like hot. They're like constantly posting stuff, and it's about archaeology. I mean, everything from like just it's complete rationalism. So no religion allowed.
And it's way more entertaining.
No, I'm just saying. Some people, no Buddhism, no nothing. Anything positive for religion cannot be, but anything that's negative against people cannot be also.
Yeah.
Because it's extremely humanism.
You ever listen
No,
to the
we're going
Art
to kill
Bell
religious
show?
people or none of that nonsense. What's that?
You ever listen to the Art Bell show?
A long time ago, I did.
Well, as soon as I saw harp, that's what popped
Yeah.
into my. I was like, oh no, that's not the same harp.
No, it's acronym. Let's harp on thinking rationally. Let's focus on doing this. and also focus on being humanistic. Because I say that, there's the ills in the world. These are things that we should fight, but we shouldn't fight to the point that we lose our human self in the process of doing it. I mean, if we're not fighting for a purpose that betters things, then we're just becoming the problem, not fighting the problem. And I want to really inspire us to become part of the solution, not just another niche in the problem. So, I mean, very few people are as extremely anti-religionist and anti-theist as I am, and also as humanist. I tell people, what I want to do different for my movement is I want to bring humanism to anti-religionism and anti-theism, because I feel like some of those get too extreme where they become almost like another, problem. Not, it should be.
I was just gonna say, is it? How do you regulate it? I mean, so I've been in a few chat rooms.
Yeah, I see. Everyone knows I'm zero tolerance. I have a very strong personality, whether not just in person but online, and it's very, very caring. They know exactly how I feel.
I've been in rooms where I just leave because
Yeah.
I'm just like, there's just a bunch of people who are just bad mouthing religion, and that's all they do, and they're saying a bunch of swear words and they're being insulting.
Well, I can't say people don't use swear words, but it's possible. But people do not attack
I'm
people.
not offended by swear words. I'm just saying, like, they're saying every other word
Yeah.
is a swear word, and they're just
No,
insulting
it's very
everyone.
educated. No, I wouldn't put up with that. I have a really, really long beginning that explains all the rules of the group. No one attacks nobody. I would always say you attack thinking and not people. Whether it's
What a great
someone who's in the
idea.
group or someone in the
Swear
world.
word
Thinking
control.
and not people. I'm totally against it.
I just get tired of
I could
hearing
envision
the
one of those little
bickering back and
25-cent
forth
books.
between
And you're a female. I'm very feminist.
Oh, okay.
So
You're saying that.
I put it in the group,
say
and
this,
they
this,
know
this,
they didn't get away with none of that shit. No sexism, no homophobia, no racism, no
I
nationalism.
kicked a guy out of my group because
Lisa Kudrow
he made some really sexist comments.
Yeah, that will not happen in my group. Even though there's 700 people. People.
And they just have to come up with the most creative or something?
Yeah, well, you can't use the word.
Well, and also in my group, you have the right to say that. But even if we disagree with you, you have the right, as a female, to say this feels sexist, and for us to go, what do you say?
He said, women who don't want to have children are
Like a bad sailor.
something wrong because they don't
Yeah,
want
but that's stupid. I'm gonna attack that.
I was like, do you understand what you're saying? Because you're basically saying that women should be pregnant. And that they should want to be pregnant.
Well, I always tell people, to me, I see a woman as a whole person. They don't have to be a mother to be a whole person. They are a whole person already.
Yeah, but
Motherhood doesn't-
I'm just saying, like, he was making those comments.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, do you even realize how
No, they
rude
don't.
what you're saying is? Like,
No, I'm just saying
because
that.
I'm someone who doesn't want to have
Oh, I
children.
love it.
And
Good.
one of my friends in my room, and she also helps me, like, police the room, also doesn't want to have children, and
I've posted that before about females not wanting to have children, because I chose to not have children. I chose to get a vasectomy and never have children.
Who was saying, I was listening to a podcast and they were saying about how
What kind
more
of
educated a woman
problem
is, the less
solving
children
other
she's
animals
gonna have.
besides humans?
Right, and the squirrel, I remember this one person.
Could be, but I wouldn't phrase it like that, because that almost sounds like that
college-
people that have children are ignorant, and I wouldn't agree to that. I think you could be I think it's a personality thing too, because you could be very loving and want a large family, because you want it, so I don't think
I
that.
personally do want a family. I like single dads.
I saw it on
I just don't
CNN.
want to make a baby.
No, I'm not saying, I'm just making a comment that to say that you have kids.
I can act really immature.
Because I would say that when you said intelligent, I wouldn't say probably intelligent, probably depending on what your focus is.
I'm not talking about how intelligent they are.
He'd obviously
I'm
had
just
them
saying that
before, so-
statistically they were talking about how
Are they talking about schooling or talking
yeah, women who have more education,
Or education.
tend to have less children.
Right, but then the education usually means you're focusing on some sort of a business aspect, so it's
They're
actually
probably just busy.
your lifestyle. So
Fertile
your
years.
lifestyle that wouldn't.
School.
I made a decision over 30 years ago not to have any more children.
Well, check out the group. I guarantee you'll probably like it.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
Well, that kind of goes
And if
back to
something
one of the
is
things
that
you
you don't
said at
like,
the beginning, is that you
my
go
group's
with
kind of one you
relationship
can
of
say
being
it and not get
intelligent
attacked.
and
Oh, I'm
you know,
not
I mean,
afraid of saying.
No, no, I'm
what
saying,
really
you
gets
say
selected
respectfully.
for. So, I mean, natural selection
So
is
it doesn't-
going on all the time.
But-
Yeah, no, I'm not into
So,
the whole
as a
internet
species,
argument.
we
That's
tend
why
to
I was
select
asking.
against
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't
too
like that.
much
My,
education,
I have
too much
5,000 friends on my
intelligence, too
Facebook.
much
I have
bookiness.
the max you can even have.
There
I
hasn't
police my Facebook.
been
And a lot of
that
times people
much
come on there almost like a group
change
and
in
talk
humans
and
recently, I don't
But
believe.
because I'm so out in how I feel,
Like that,
I'm
like
so
humans
sexism, homophobia.
replace
The people, if they are on there, usually if
the
they're
other
not thinking
species,
that way
the
or
other
I'm
species of
anti-racism,
monkeys,
they're usually gone very
big
quickly.
Karen man.
In fact, when I was at a convention,
Germany,
I had posted a picture of me with
Neanderthal, you know, they existed side by side.
people with
Willing to
black
see
free
Humans
thinkers,
were
I guess.
smarter.
somebody from
Probably saying it wrong, but I can't remember now.
They made better weapons.
Anyways,
they knew how to do things.
Some
they could
racist,
throw
I didn't know
around
he was
our
racist,
food.
saw me post like 3 different pictures
Competition.
with, taking pictures with
The
African
smartest one
Americans
won.
and started saying racist stuff.
Or they,
I
or
was
they were
thinking-
bred out of existence.
That is why.
When I got back, my friends are already attacking, his stuff called Facebook,
my idea.
found
I
his jobs,
know the
or,
first
they started
person
saying all this
that,
stuff.
talk about this
They did not let him,
But-
because he put swastikas and, all this, I can't
we
remember,
are
but he
pretty
put a
much
bunch of stuff.
defenseless. You put a human.
So they had already,
almost
they knew
anywhere
it,
in the
and they said,
world,
man, when Damien gets
they
to
can't
the
use
convention,
the
when he
brain.
gets sees this, you're gonna be
die.
blocked and banned.
And they have
So-
to make it. They have to make shelter.
It's-
Get food. They can eat.
I already know.
Well,
It's
right.
just the
But
way
what
it is.
seems
That's
to be
why it's funny because
more
you always go,
important
well, if you were,
is to be
if you
able to
say everything you think, you're not going to have any
communicate
friends.
with
Really?
That's
Because
where
I
it
have
comes
more than
with the
actually,
brain.
I have almost 600 followers
Have a
that are-
brain
that are on
that's
top
better,
of
that communicates better.
that just follow me and aren't even my friend.
Then we develop
So, I mean,
writing.
that's more than some
That
people
was a
have
huge-
on the whole friends
Have you
list.
seen this thing
But it-
recently?
and it's-
History of the Earth.
Well, I'm just saying, and it's in it.
Well, actually, I
Well, I
have
think it's a lot, but I'm just saying it's not because I don't say what I think.
There's a History Channel.
I very,
History of the
extremely do
Earth
say
in 2
what I think.
hours.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's worth 2 hours. It starts at the beginning, Big Bang, but it goes up and lists all of the significant things that have happened. And when you get through the geology and the astronomy and stuff, you get up to things like agriculture was one of the huge changes. Because the fact that people could grow food meant they could stay in one place. That's like before that, they
Fecal
had to
matter.
move with all the animals because they killed them all and you had to go. So once they could do that, they could form groups, stay in one place. They could get a lot more energy out of a certain area, so they could stay there. They could grow, expand, and it was just
See, I probably, okay.
advance in the evolution of not evolution, but the progression of human.
Yeah, I might have just, someone was, to me, if you tag people, I usually just,
Being
I
able
won't. When he said about your name, that would be to me attacking
Information
you as a person,
back and forth, one
and that's
to retain more information than you can
because
remember.
well, I'm saying for me in my
This
group,
is another
someone attacked you personally, that I won't tolerate. I tell people
Right,
I have
no,
zero
I-
tolerance.
the next one was the cleaning class was made. And this thing is
What I want to do is I want to create safe environments for people
all of
to,
these things
because like you said, there's too much on Facebook where it's not safe. Just like I just recently I posted a picture of a joke on my because I have a lighter page also, and I have 2 atheist pages on top of a
there's
media
limited
page.
resources.
I'm all over
Somebody's going to get them. And
Facebook,
most
but
of the time that works fine.
I
Everybody's
posted
fine,
a
but the
picture
earth is
that had a
constantly
man, it was a
changing.
joke, had a man
Environment
and a
changes.
woman, and the heart of
And
the
things
woman
get
in her
tough.
heart, and the heart in the man's
When
crotch.
things
is-
get tough,
Yes, I
Can't
care,
adapt.
and my care is growing for you as I look at you. And this,
and
I thought it was funny. You laughed. I mean, this woman said that she felt that I was being sexist, and I said,
because that's all we have. We don't
I disagree with you, but I'm willing to listen to what you have to say. Because I don't.
Just going back.
So the guy goes, "Oh, she's a stupid feminist." And I said, "Like, well, I'm not.
If we don't use it,
I have no problem
Gust
with
of wind
that."
hit the car.
I said,
Well,
on the
But
shoulder on the
we're
right.
I'm willing
probably
to
more
hear.
valuable.
Sometimes I've learned, just take the card, maybe
as
I'm wrong.
nodes
There
in
you
a
are.
Or
large
maybe I can see it a
network.
different way. I don't feel
Than
that
as individual processes.
situation. I said it was a joke. It was, I didn't say all women have their hearts.
So,
You
so
know,
I mean,
value.
all men have
What?
are thinking with their dick. It was
You
just a
gotta
joke.
define value.
So,
well, more likely to survive.
She said she felt it was sexist against men.
Yes,
But I
absolutely.
said, how is it sexist against women?
Clans are much more likely to
Well,
survive
it's sexist against men.
because
I go,
got a bunch of guys
so,
out and
so I said, well, in my thinking, it was first off, it was a joke. Second off, is that there's been study after study that show that men are more sexual and more straightforward about their sexuality and how they
make
do.
a little
I took from web and deep. So this,
Keep the lions
I
out.
wasn't
Right.
trying to. I was just trying to make a
Well,
joke.
and so
But I said,
evolutionarily,
You know, and then,
the principles that go
she
into
said, well,
group
you know, I
selection,
won't
which
listen to
aren't
what
as
you're
well
saying. And I was
understood.
like, I am listening to what you're saying. Doesn't mean I'm
And so
agreeing
it's
with it.
what causes a group
I
to
value
succeed.
your right
Well,
to
that's-
have
that's why
a
we
voice.
have
I don't
that,
tell women
because we
to
involve
be
that
quiet or
way,
to
because
not
the
be
people that
offended.
wanted to
You have the
form
right to be
groups
offended. Doesn't mean that
survived.
everything you get offended though, I'm gonna agree is also offensive.
by
Right,
themselves
right.
or the
But I said,
one
you know, I
couple
never
out
say you
working
can't
Right, now
give your
the one
opinion.
yeah.
Nice to meet
Well,
you.
the one discussion of that I've seen that I think you might enjoy is
All
an
right,
evolution
bye.
for everyone.
Okay, yeah.